Right now, if you wanted to, you could pick up your phone and learn something from someone on the other side of the planet. A skill, a technique, a way of solving a problem, ideas traveling faster than any human has ever physically moved. But go back 50,000 years, and two completely different species of human beings were doing something remarkably similar, slowly, silently, without language as we know it. The Neanderthals and Homo sapiens, two lines that had been evolving separately for hundreds of thousands of years, were sharing the same land. So here's the question that keeps scientists awake at night. Were they enemies, rivals locked in a cold war for survival? Or were they something else? To understand what actually happened between these two species, you have to throw out the image you probably have, the hunched, dull-eyed brute dragging a club through the snow. That Neanderthal never existed. Neanderthals were a highly successful group who had adapted well to the unpredictable climate of Eurasia, large-brained, powerful hunters capable of taking down some of the biggest Ice Age creatures that ever walked the earth, including mammoths and woolly rhinoceros. These were not creatures stumbling blindly through an ice age. They had fire, they had tools, they had each other. And for a stretch of time that makes all of recorded human history look like an afternoon, they shared a world with us. The clearest sign that these two species weren't simply ignoring each other comes from a limestone cave on the Mediterranean coast of what is now Türkiye. At Üçağızlı II Cave, findings show that Neanderthals lived in the cave from 77,000 to 59,000 years ago, and then Homo sapiens moved in from 59,000 to 47,000 years ago. Layer after layer of sediment, excavated with millimeter-level precision, told the same story. Neanderthals and the modern humans who moved in later left behind surprisingly similar traces of their daily lives, evidence that they hunted the same animals, crafted the same stone tools, and collected the same type of seashells. Picture it. Two different kinds of human, thousands of years apart, sitting in the same fire-lit cave, reaching for the same small spiral shell off the same rocky shoreline. Not because they had to, because something drew them to it, something that looked a lot like taste. Here's where it gets strange. Those shells, tiny sea snails called Columbella rustica, weren't being collected for food. Nearly 30 of them were found in all sediment layers, some with tips broken or holes formed, suggesting decorative use. They were being kept, carried, possibly worn. Both species. Same shell, same behavior. These shared preferences existed for 20,000 years. 20,000 years of two different human lineages independently choosing the same object and treating it as something valuable beyond its calories. That's not a coincidence. That's not two animals stumbling into the same patch of berries. That is the earliest known evidence of something that looks disturbingly like a shared culture, a signal passing between two species that science once assumed had almost nothing to say to each other. And the tools tell the same story. A study published in PNAS found that Neanderthals and Homo sapiens used the level-law technique to produce tools with this shared stone tool technology dating back 59,000 years. The level-law technique is not a simple thing. It requires planning ahead, visualizing the final shape of a blade before striking the stone, removing flakes in a deliberate sequence. It is, in a very real sense, a technology that lives in the mind before it lives in the hand. The research team concluded that the remarkable continuity in technology, hunting practices, and the transport of bead seashells is consistent with the idea that these populations interacted and shared cultural traditions over time. Two different species, the same mental blueprint. The same precise motion of stone against stone, repeated faithfully across thousands of years and thousands of miles. But the tools weren't the only place knowledge was moving. New high-precision radiocarbon dates confirm that Neanderthals manufactured sophisticated bone tools and body ornaments, but only after modern humans arrived in neighboring regions. The timing is impossible to ignore. Before contact, Neanderthals had no bone ornaments. After modern humans appeared nearby, suddenly they did. Something was being observed, something was being learned. Whether through direct conversation, watching from a ridge, or finding abandoned campsites, the knowledge traveled. Two species, one tool, one seashell, one grave. Because here is the turn that changes everything. Around 40,000 years ago, the clock ran out. Between 44,000 and 40,000 years ago, a sequence of stadials, brutally cold and arid climate pulses, caused successive regional Neanderthal depopulation intervals across Europe, facilitating staggered repopulation by modern humans. It wasn't a single catastrophe, it was a slow erasure, from ice to empty valleys to modern human footprints in the mud where Neanderthal hearths had burned for 300,000 years. Whatever the cause of their extinction, Neanderthals were replaced by modern humans, marked by the near-complete replacement of Mousterian stone technology with the Argonation across Europe between 41,000 and 39,000 years ago. From coexistence to fragmentation to silence. The conversations, whatever form they took, ended. One voice went quiet, the other carried on, and it carried something with it. People of non-African descent today carry 1 to 4% of their genomes from Neanderthals. That percentage doesn't sound dramatic, but pause and let it land. Every person reading this who has non-African ancestry carries inside their DNA a record of contact of two ancient peoples close enough, long enough, that their bloodlines mixed. Ancient DNA evidence supports that early humans and Neanderthals had repeated interactions, including interbreeding around 45,000 years ago, during a sustained period of coexistence. The Neanderthals didn't simply vanish without a trace. They dissolved, slowly, partially, into us. Their immune defenses, their cold weather adaptations, their ways of reading a dark winter landscape for prey. We didn't just watch them, we inherited them. And none of that would have been possible without proximity, without shared fire, without two species who, against every assumption, chose contact over conflict. What if the sharpest edge our ancestors ever had wasn't a blade of flint at all, but the willingness to sit near a fire that wasn't theirs? What if the most powerful survival strategy in the deep story of humanity wasn't dominance or destruction, but the ancient, unspoken ability to learn from something that looked almost but not quite like you? And if that's true for us, how many other chapters of life on this planet have been quietly written, not in competition, but in imitation? Somewhere in a cave on the Mediterranean coast of Turkey, a hand, we don't know whose, picked up a small spiral shell and tucked it away. Not for food, not for survival. For some reason that felt, in that moment, important. A Neanderthal hand did the same thing. And thousands of years later, a Homo sapiens hand did it again. The same shell, the same motion, as if something were being passed forward through time. What this tells us is not just that Neanderthals and modern humans shared a world, it tells us they shaped each other. Every piece of Neanderthal DNA still living inside the human body is not a footnote. It is a record of contact, of two kinds of mind, reaching toward each other across a fire in the dark. You didn't come from nowhere, and neither, it turns out, did they.